The story opens with Einar's mother, Emma, and his sister, Lotta, teasing him when they find him cutting trees in the name of training for battle. A while later, he once again states his desire to be a strong warrior and defend his village the same way his late father did, but Emma isn't fully in support of this dream. One day, his village is raided and Emma is killed. Einar and Lotta flee, but they're caught, and when Lotta tries to fight back, she too is murdered. The raiders capture Einar and take him on a boat along with other slaves. They finally get to land, and the slaves that survived are fed and cleaned up to be sold. Einar attempts to escape, but he's caught and beaten up, so he accepts his fate. One day, a man comes looking for his relative named Thorfinn, who was enslaved, but the slavers try to sell Einar to him instead, and he refuses. A while later, a man named Ketil comes around, and after Einar reveals he was a farmer before, Ketil offers him a job and takes him to his farm. On the farm, Einar is introduced to one of Ketil's slaves, a man named Thorfinn. After the introduction, Ketil asks Thorfinn to show Einar how the work is done, and he does just that. Ketil urges them to be hardworking because if they are, they'd be able to buy their freedom in about 3 years. As the two young men walk into the woodlands, Einar reveals he's from northern England and asks Thorfinn about his origin. He tells him he's from Iceland, but Einar is unfamiliar with the place. Einar soon gets hungry, and Thorfinn explains that the retainers would arrive with food soon, but when they do, Einar is unhappy to see the tiny food. One day, Einar witnesses an argument between Ketil and his son Olmar, who wants to make a name for himself as a soldier and despises farm work. At night, Olmar, who appears to have very poor swordsmanship, reveals his plans to join Canut's army in England to a lady whose parents encouraged her to sleep with him so they can benefit from Ketil's wealth. Olmar soon finds out about the scheme, and in anger, he accuses her parents of being gold diggers and rides his horse into the night. Later that night, Olmar encounters two mercenaries named Fox and Badger, working as guards on his father's farm, and after getting drunk and upsetting them with his arrogance, they subdue him and advise him to kill someone before wanting to be a warrior. In the morning, Einar meets a beautiful woman named Arnheid, who is Ketil's personal maid and concubine, and he seems to be infatuated with her already. A short while later, Fox and Badger arrive and take Einar and Thorfinn away. They arrive at the camp of the other mercenaries and give Olmar a sword, telling him to kill the slaves to prove he's ready to be a man before talking about becoming a warrior. Olmar hesitates because he would have to pay his father back as he is not their master. As a result, Einar tackles him, asking Thorfinn to flee, but he doesn't even flinch. Fox then threatens to kill Thorfinn when he doesn't seem afraid. He starts striking him with the sword, but he remains unfazed. Luckily, the leader of a band named Snake arrives and intervenes. Snake attacks Fox to stop him from striking Thorfinn. He demands an explanation from his men, and when they don't have a reasonable one, he apologizes to Thorfinn and scolds his men. But suddenly, he charges at Thorfinn with a blade, and he uses incredible reflexes and skill to defend himself. Then, Snake comments on Thorfinn's body not wanting to die. Later on, Peter helps tend to Thorfinn's wounds and gives him a new shirt. In the evening, Einar asks Thorfinn about the skill he displayed with Snake, so he reveals that he was once a vicious warrior and that he does not even know how many lives he's taken. Later that night, in the barn, Einar recalls Thorfinn's confessions and begins to see him just like the raiders that killed his family. So, he starts choking him in his sleep. Thorfinn starts screaming, but it's because he's being tormented in his dreams by the souls he's taken and soon wakes up. After having a conversation, Einar remembers that Thorfinn didn't kill his family and decides to let him be. He advises Thorfinn to try and forget about his past, and he thanks Einar. Canute remembers the moment when Asalad killed his father, King Swine, ending the Danish supremacy in England. Now, Canute rules, but Ethelred is back from exile and desires the throne for himself, causing a power tussle between the two. Canute is aware that taking control of the whole of England won't be easy with Ethelred around, but he is reminded by a man named Thorkel who advises him to prepare for war as he must forge his legacy in blood and metal just like Askeladd. One day, Canute meets with Gunnar and Floki in Mercia when he's approached by a man named Edric, a Mercian noble who attempts to bribe him to leave the land because he believes it belongs to Ethelred. However, Canute decides to show his might and prove a point by lighting fires in many places on the land, and showing Edric what it would mean to go to war with him, as he shows him the capacity of his powers. He then tells him that the only way to buy peace is by offering Ethelred's head. 1 year later, Ethelred mysteriously dies of an illness. His son, Edmund, assumes his throne, but a few months later, he dies of an illness as well, leaving Canute without any resistance, and the following year, he is crowned as the overall ruler of England. Einar and Thorfinn are working hard on the farm, and soon, Einar concludes they need a horse to make their work easier. But when they go to Ketil's stable, their request is denied. As Einar laments on the road, an old man named Sverkel hears him and offers to lend them one of his horses. After doing a lot of chores for Sverkel, he finally gives them the horse, and Einar is overjoyed when he sees how easy the work has become. Later, they realize they also need a plow and ask Sverkel for one, which he lends them. They soon find out that Sverkel is Ketil's father. On the day they return the plow to Sverkel, they found Ketil discussing with his father, so they wait outside. When they finally enter the house, Sverkel invites them to dinner and tells them to wash their wet clothes because the rain poured on them. Inside the house, they come across Snake, who appears to also be Sverkel's son. A while later, Ketil's son Thorgil returns from battle in Canute's army and shares his experience with the family, praising his father as the great Iron Fist Ketil who was a terror in battle. Meanwhile, Einar and Thorfinn will soon be harvesting their crops and are pleased that they'll soon be able to buy their freedom. Snake takes 2 thieves he caught, a boy and his younger sister, to Ketil, and after much deliberation, the punishment is that the boy would work on the farm to pay back and would also receive a beating. The boy asks to take his sister's beating, and Thorgil finds it amusing, so he offers to do the flogging, but nearly kills the boy with a single stroke. Later that night, Ketil confides in Arnheid, telling her that the great war stories about him are not true, and that he is afraid of Thorgil and even the idea of war itself. Arnheid consoles him and assures him that his kindness is not a weakness. One day, Thorfinn wakes up from another one of his very frequent nightmares, and Einar asks him why he was screaming the name Asalad. The whole day, Thorfinn is distressed because he can't remember what happened in his dreams, but he's sure that they're always terrifying. Later, he reveals that Asalad was the one who killed his father, and that he went down the warpath because of him. However, he claims that he no longer hates him and has decided to move on. Elsewhere, the retainers are annoyed with the slaves' farming progress, and it appears they proceed to destroy their crops. When they find out, Einar is enraged, but Thorfinn calms him down and suggests they meet Pater, who was once a slave that bought his freedom. Pater consoles them and promises to investigate, but Einar sees the retainers. He gets into a fight with them, and in the ensuing commotion, Thorfinn is knocked unconscious. That brings us to the end of today's recap. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. Please hit the thumbs up button, subscribe, and kindly comment below if you would like to see the next part. Bye and thanks for watching. See you next time.